Hi everybody! Today we are doing this video to present the budgets we spent to refit Oriyo. And more particularly, we will detail the expenses we got on the rigging, the sails, the engine, the plumbing, the electricity and electronics, among a lot of other things. We hope that this will be informative and maybe even help if you wish to start with such of a boat project on your own one day. Keep in mind though that every boat is different, so every boat renovation will be as well. Although we did a lot of works by ourselves, so this is really an overall tour of the expenses we have made. Please leave us a comment under this video if you have any more related questions. And for those who are interested of reading more detailed info about this topic, we will add those on our Patreon page. Have fun!
We are Stephanie and Valerie. In 2020, we found an abandoned boat seriously damaged. It is a Vauquier Centurion 4245, a made-in-France sailboat of 1989. We started to renovate her by building a new keel, spent over 2 years on the hard doing lots of other boatworks. After all this time waiting, we ended splashing Oriyo last July, began to sail with her and untie the lines, leaving French coast for a new adventure. This second season of sailing Oriyo is about sharing our navigation and steps across the Med toward the Atlantic.
When you finally found a perfect boat for you, you may want to make a survey. And most of the insurance company will ask you to give a professional survey assessment. Through some information that we took, we know that in France it will cost between 800 and 1500 euros for a professional survey. We have the chance that among our friends we know professionals for about most of the major matter concerning a boat. And they all came onto Oriyo beforehand to give us their expertise. So we had analyses for matters like the rigging, the sails, the electricity and electronics, the boat structures and metalworks, as well as the engine or even the plumbing. Thanks to them, we could start knowing that Oriyo is really good. The first thing to think about is where to store your boats. And with Oriyo, we were really lucky as she already was in Navy service in Port Saint-Louis-du-Rhône, which is the largest harbor in Europe. Plus, we already know there as we refitted our old boat Canquin, so we knew for sure that there was everything that we would need to renovate this boat. Oriyo is a 42 feet long monohull, and for that size of boat we spend 2,500 euros per year in Navy service. In Port Saint-Louis you have all the services, all the professionals always here to give you advices or services, and a lot of stores and ship chandlers, so everything you need. The best part was that we could stay aboard during the refits and we could work by ourselves on our boat. The additional expense is about the electricity, so if your devices consume more than 4 amps or 800 watts, you need to rent for an electricity meters and pay as you use. But remember, this is very important to find the perfect place to storage your boat, and especially if you need to work on her. As the boat has spent over the last 15 years on the hard, it is without any surprise that we started by a big washing. For that operation, we spent about 150 euros to rent a high pressure water device and on a lot of different washing lotion and cleaning products. We removed the mast for 2 main reasons. First, of course, we wanted to inspect carefully all the parts of the mast and the rigging. But then we knew that we will have to drop the keel. So for that we needed to get rid of the mast to access all the bolts and nuts of the keel. We spent only 100 euros, given that we have done all the preparation for removing the mast by ourselves. So we only had to rent the crane and pay for the working time of the team that helped us lift up the mast and put it aside on Oriyo. Be careful there. It's not the case in Navy service, but in some places they can charge you a fee to storage your mast. We spent a big 3,000 euros on the plumbing, and this might sound expensive, but we actually did all by ourselves using gears that you can easily find in a hardware store. We chose to start with the plumbing because we knew that we would have to stay aboard Oriyo for several days or even several weeks while we will be doing all the boat works to renovate her. So we kind of need fresh, clear water. To go roughly through these expenses on that matter, I can say that we change all the pipes that runs everywhere in the boat. We change all the connections, the faucets. We have 2 in the heads and 1 in the galley. We change as well the outlet pipe that go right into the seacocks. We had to change 3 of the 9 seacocks that we have, the 2 for the galley sink and the 1 for the inlet water for the engine, and we put some new valves on all of the 9 seacocks. We added a new water filter system as well, as there was none before. About the water tanks, we opened them up, all of them. We have 4. We checked them and there was absolutely no leaks, so we just washed them carefully and closed them up. Same thing about the water heater, who works absolutely perfectly. The little fancy gear that we added is an electrical toilet in the back shower. In the end, we can say that it was kind of a big budget for the plumbing, but at least we have now a brand new water system, and we are glad to have started with such a nasty work from the very beginning. We then took care of several small inside jobs that had to be done. And for those, we spent about 700 euros on things such as making the porthole in the galley waterproof, otherwise it was just pouring rain every time. We even lightened up a little bit the inside, so we did some paint in the galley and on some bulkheads. We did a brand new floor for the back head, and we sanded the floors and added some protective compound on those. And the biggest one was to design a brand new hatch for the companionway, where the rain was pouring as well, and we spent about 200 euros on plexiglass and a locking system to close it up. So you can say that 700 euros is a correct amount of money to get some more comfort and stay dry inside. We then turned toward the outside boatworks with the underwater line of the boat. For that, we had a huge work to do that we split in 2 big steps. First of all, we needed to scrape and sand and inspect for any anomalies all the underwater part of the hull. For that, we spent about 700 euros, especially in devices such as in a hoover, in scrapers with blades. We bought, I think, 2 sanding machines and tons of sanding discs, and of course some protective gears for the environment and for ourselves, such as gloves and masks and glasses. The second part was way later in the future, as it was actually right before splashing the boats. It was the time to put some paint under the waterline of the boats. For that, we spent about 1,160 euros for paints, but they are so important ones that we needed to put that amount of money on them. So we put first a gel shield, which is a brand for waterproof barrier, and then the anti-fouling. Of course, we had to add some tape and paint brushes and other protection gears for us. In the end, we spent a little bit above 1,800 euros, but that was for the sake of the boat. One of the challenge about Oriyo's refits definitely was her keel. We knew from the very start that the keel was deeply damaged, and quickly enough we were aware that there was nothing we could do about it. So we started to look for a company to manufacture a new keel for us. There is only one in France, so it was quick. We called them and it appeared that we just couldn't afford it, not even a little bit. So we had to go another way and chose to build our keel by ourselves. I will not explain every step we went through, as we already have made several episodes about that topics, and of course you are welcome to follow the links here, and in the description below the video to go and watch the video we made about how we build this keel by ourselves. But here's a brief list of the main expenses. So we started to, of course, remove the keel, and then having an architect and engineer to make the drawings and the plans and a mock paper. Afterwards, we found a company from which we bought the steel rods and sheets, cut and protected against the corrosion. After that, we hired a welder, because the welding part is very important for the keel strength, and we are not welding ourselves. So it was a release to leave that very important part into a professional hand. We bought as well bolts and nuts to hang the keel at the bottom of the boats, some specific tools, and of course the leads. We were lucky about that part because we found all the leads that we needed here on the rods, so there was no cost for transportation, plus we were able to negotiate well the price. After that, we bought some resin, fiberglass and primer compounds to shape and protect the keel, as well as do the front and back ends of it. And of course, in the end, we finish by paying the crane to maneuver the keel and put it back underneath the boat. All of this for around 14,000 euros. Of course, this is a price, but regarding the estimate we had from the company, we kind of spent half price, plus we had to learn a lot of things. At the same time that we dropped down the keel, we removed the rudder. We noticed that there was a scratch at the bottom part of it, and were kind of a little bit worried about that. So we checked for information to know if the inner structure might be damaged. And after a professional look, it appeared that there was nothing to worry about. So all we had to do was to fix the scratch at the bottom part of the rudder with some fiberglass and primer coat, and then hang it up the rudder at the bottom part of the boat and add the paint with the primer coat and the anti-fouling. All our expenses for those parts were just some paint and some compound and some gloves to protect ourselves for a little budget of 250 euros. We also had a scratch on the port side of the hull, which Valérie repaired with some gel coats. Plus, we had a big scratch at the bottom part of the sugar scoop, which actually opened it from side to side. It has been repaired before, but apparently it didn't stay. So we spent a little 170 euros to fix both of these parts. We allowed a small budget, around 320 euros, but a great amount of time of renovating a little bit our cockpit. Basically, we removed the rotten roots, fixed some damage, some scratches we had in the gel coats, and add an anti-slip paint in the bottom. Plus, we did find a helm, as there was none when we got Oriyo in the first place. So mostly it was compound and protection, but having a much better looking cockpit for just the amount of 300 euros, just worth it. We got the boat with only 2 anchors, no anchorage line, so we had to find a chain, and we ended up with a 90-meter long chain with a 10-millimeter diameter for the amount of 500 euros. During our first anchorage, we noticed that the main anchor we were using didn't grab the sandy bottom properly, so we kind of had to get rid of this one. And on the second-hand market, for only 50 euros, we found another anchor which so far is very effective. About the chain locker, we needed to give a good check to the windlass and change its electrical motor as it just melts. Then we strengthened its supports and of course changed all the wires and the nuts for a total amount of 300 euros. So it was a global amount of 850 euros for all these parts. The second big piece of work on Oriyo was her engine, and for that we spent none less than 11,000 euros. We have made different videos about what we went through to build a new one based on parts from 2 other engines already. So if you want to see that, if you're interested at all, you can see these videos following the links here or there or here. Anyway, in the description below this one. But for today, I will just go roughly through the main expenses. For that, I will need my notes, otherwise I will make mistakes. There are too many items here. So first, the new used second engine for a total of 2,200 euros. Then all the maneuver and storage for both of them for 450 euros. And then the mechanics, laborers for 3,500 euros. It's the big one, but without him we could have never get such an amazing and well-working engine, so he did an awesome work. Then the engine room with epoxy paint and isolation foam for 260 euros. Then the fuel, fill-in pipe, exhaust pipes and the 2 water locks for 430 euros. Then all the electrical wires, devices, connections, controllers and so on for 360 euros. Then the battery with its accessories for 250 euros. We kind of needed a new starter, so it was another 660 euros. A new generator for 120. The engine ventilation, pipes and fan for 250. Then we spent some time and a lot of products and a big pump for cleaning the tank, the fuel tank. So that cost us another 200 euros. After we used some other products to decrease, clean and paint all the parts from the 2 engines that we would keep. So that was another 120 euros. Then we have all the kits, such as the gaskets, the sensors, the hoses, the filters, the belts, the water pumps, the silent blocks, 4 of them, and a lot of spare parts from the UK company for a total amount of 1,500 euros. But at least we still have a lot of spare parts. Then the seal shaft, this one hurts 500 euros, but such a major part. And finally the propeller paint and the anodes for 100 euros. So if my calculations are correct, it's approximately 11,000 euros. Of course, this is another big expense, but the engine is such a major part, a crucial element on a boat, even a sailing boat, that we needed to take a very good care of this one. So doing so with our mechanics and by ourselves, we have learned so many things, and now we are able to do our own maintenance, get already spare parts, and we are good to go. The work on the mast and the rigging was basically only checks of all the parts of the rigging itself. So the mast, the boom, the cables, the connections, the shrouds and so on. It only cost us some bolts, nails and anti-corrosion lotions and of course the heftings. The only piece we had to find, and there was none on the boat when we found her, was the backstay jack. But that was okay, we found one on the second-hand market for 350 euros, which is quite okay. So we did all of that boatworks with only 650 euros. The big part though was that we needed to change the furler and its inner forestay. That was the bad surprise we got. So that cost us the little amount of 2200 euros. But then that's how much we spent on the rigging. We have a total of 10 winches on Oriyo. All of them are in aluminium, so prone to corrosion. At first, none of them were rolling. But after a good look, it appears that they were in a good condition. So all of our expenses about them was on tools and products to dismantle, clean, regrease and put them back on together with new sets of bolts. So for a total amount of 250 euros only. We didn't start to equip Oriyo with chandlery from scratch, hopefully. First, thank you Nodus Factory, our partner, who sent us some low friction rings, pad eyes and textile shackles. Oriyo also came with a lot of good state chandlery parts that we just had to clean and they were working all along. Also, we already had some pulleys and blocks from our old boat that we just had to settle on Oriyo. So our budget that we spent on this matter is actually kind of low. We spent 700 euros, which is not a lot. Basically, we bought a couple of blocks, pulleys, clutches, clutch, sheaves, and maybe a couple of other things. Some of them are not even installed yet because we will be using them for improvements. To go with the chandlery, we went for a whole new set of ropes and lines. So we bought new reefs, new halyards, new sheets, new topping lifts and a new boom vang line. Also, we changed the preventers for the whisker pull and the boom, the runners, the furler rope and the traveler's lines for the genoa and the mainsail. We chose all of them in polyester, which works very good for us, and the total amount for those is 1200 euros, which is quite a good deal. We got the boat with two mainsails, one really tired and the other one as good as new, hopefully. Plus there was a symmetrical spinnaker which we kept on board. So we just needed to find and buy a genoa at least, which we did on the second-hand markets. And we were so lucky to find one actually brand new with the good adjustments for Oriyo. And we even got to choose the color of our sun protection stripes. We paid for this sail 1000 euros, transportation fees included. Then Valerie wanted two additional head sails, one for light winds, so we went for a richer for 300 euros and one for heavier winds. We went for a Solens, also called a jib, for 350 euros. Finally, we added a stack back to tidy properly the mainsail, which we got for 400 euros thanks to Nicolas in Acastiège Diffusion Port Saint-Louis-du-Rhône, who helped us a lot to find this one. So the total amount we paid was a little over 2000 euros, which is a really wise expense for every sales. For an approximately 300 euros, we ended up doing some aesthetic work on the hull. We hesitated for a long time of doing so, but in the end we wanted Oriyo to be beautiful and shiny for her splash. I spent over a week of sanding the hull with 3 different sanding papers, then painting her 3 stripes on each side with 2 layers of paint, and polishing with 2 different compounds, so I did polish the whole hull twice. It was a really long work, but it was so worth it, and we are really proud of the results. In addition, we spent another €100 for 2 mooring lines that were missing, and only one fender, as Oriyo already had some, plus a friend of ours gave us a couple of more. About the electricity, all of the inside services electricity was working pretty well. It was in a very good condition. All the lights, the fridge, the water heater connections, the water and bilge pumps, and so on, everything was working pretty well. So all we had to do was to change the light bulbs for LEDs for €100. Then we changed all the wires coming down the mast, as well as the bulb for LEDs for the navigation, anchorage, deck and motor lights for €230. The big expenses though were for the whole new set of batteries, converter, AC DC power, the smart shunt from Victron, and all other accessories and devices for energy. Plus we added 4 solar panels with 2 charge controllers with all the data and power wires. So for those we had to pay €1,900. So overall for the electricity, the exact amount we paid was €2,230. Big part of the budget. Another big part of the budget we spent to prepare Oriyo concern, of course, the electronical devices. We tried and did as simple as we could, but a minimum was due. First, the autopilot. The hydraulic cylinder that we already had on the boat was in a pretty good condition, but as it is such an important part for the boat, we sent it to the manufacturer company and they did a big checkup of it for €700. The screen for the cockpit and the compass, we already had those, so that saved us some money. Then we had to buy the ACU 400, which is the computer by itself, for €2,000, and some wires and connections for another €150. So in total, the autopilot cost us €2,850. Then we had the lock speedo with the depth and temperature indicators, which we got from Raymarine. It's an I-40 and we spent €400 for it. For the wind strength and direction device, we found an Advent C with all the parts it came with for €600. Then at the cockpits, the chart plotter with all the maps, we already had those from our previous boat, so that was another big save as well. Down at the chart table, we are using an iPad as the chart plotter, which works perfectly. This one cost us €445. We also have a VHF ARS that we found for €350 and the GPS for €170. We also have a couple of mobile VHF that we already had beforehand. Overall, all the electronical devices and expenses cost us over €4,900, but those are so important, we just couldn't sail without these ones. As we prioritized safety and the navigation gears for Oriyo, we spent a little concerns about the comfort and the aesthetic, especially inside. So really, the only thing that we have done was to change our mattress, buy some sheets and a couple of pillowcases for the amount of €500, and that was it. About the safety aboard, I will be starting with the EPIRB beacon. We already had one from our previous boat, so all we had to do was to make it rebooted with the information of Oriyo. Otherwise, we would have to spend about €600 for a brand new one. In the cockpit, we have a life raft. For just the two of us, we chose a 4-person in a flexible bag, which is less heavy for me to manipulate. We actually got it on sale, but still we had to spend 1,000 euros for this one. But you just cannot start and sail away from shore without a proper life raft. Then we spent another 1,000 euros more or less to get all the other gears according to the French regulation requirements. So that includes the extinguishers, the medication, the safety harnesses, and all the other gears and flashlights and everything else, right until the batteries, for example, the headlamps. It is a bit of a great expense, but this is our safety. We will be finishing with the dinghy. The one we had with Oriyo was kind of old and well died at our very first use of her. So we had to find another one, which we did for 400 euros only. And to go with her, we found a small 4-stroke 2.5 horsepower engine for 370 euros. We found both of them on the second-hand market, but for a total amount of 770 euros, we have a great dinghy and a very cool engine to ride along with her. To sum up, if I calculated correctly, we spent a little bit over 56,000 euros to renovate Oriyo from the very first time we saw her right up until she was ready to go and sail. If we would have wanted to buy a boat as ready as she was, it would have cost us something around 85 to 90,000 euros. So it was quite a good economy to have done all this work by ourselves. Thanks for watching us on this episode about our expenses to renovate our sailing boats. We hope that this episode has answered some of your questions and enlightened your view about all the boat works we have done on Oriyo. Soon we will be doing another episode with a focus on the electricity and energy aboard. Take care, bye bye. Okay. Over the lap. The biggest the big powers for who help euros. C'est tout en fait. Bah ouais, en fait c'est tout.